Hey everyone, welcome back to Ontario Gardening. So today we are going to make homemade garland. So there are so many variations of this. I highly suggest going on Pinterest or online and looking up some inspiration. I'm going to do a very basic one to show you just the fundamentals of how to do it. So I've got my cranberries and I've got an apple and an orange, and we're going to be slicing these into thin slices, dehydrating them, and basically threading them with a needle onto some garden twine. So the one thing to note when you are doing this is you're looking for smells that are going to last, because you can actually keep this garland for like 2 or 3 years and still have the fragrance on them. So I'm going to show you a couple little tips and tricks on how to do that. But the first thing that we're going to do is slice these pretty thin in order to get a decent dehydration on them. So just like this is good. And you're going to want to keep the rinds on them, of course. I don't know if I mentioned that. You can use oranges, grapefruits, any different type of citrus that you like. I just really like the look of the orange. And now we're just going to add them to the tray with the cranberries with the parchment paper. And what I'm going to do with the apples is you can actually use a festive cookie cutter to make shapes out of these if you wanted to. I'm going to just maybe use a paring knife and cut 1 or 2 into some stars. Now the one tip that I'm going to give you before we put this into the oven at 200 is we are going to actually sprinkle some of our favorite spices right on the fruit. So we're going to add cinnamon sticks later, but to really have the fragrance on these for a long time, you want to kind of bake them or dehydrate them into the product. So I'm going to take some cinnamon and I'm going to sprinkle these pretty generously. We're not going to like put a whole layer, but we're just going to sprinkle it really nicely on all of these, flip them over, sprinkle that side as well. And this way there is extra fragrance to these, not only as they bake, but once they are dehydrated. Okay, so I'm going to pop these in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are doing this for 5 hours. So make sure you have some time on your hand. I'll show you what they look like when they are done. We're looking for a dehydrated state. So nothing's wet, because if you put wet things, it's going to mold over. You're looking for dry and dehydrated. I'll just show you when we're done what that looks like. And in the meantime, we're going to prep some other items to put on our garland. So if you have pine, little pine branches are amazing. I have rosemary, so we're going to do that. I have got some cinnamon sticks, and we are definitely going to put some cinnamon sticks and tie those in there. You can air pop some plain popcorn. Just make sure it's not like a buttered microwave popcorn. You want just plain popped popcorn. You can use that. You can spray paint that with silver or gold. You can use pine cones and put glitter on those. You can virtually do anything you want to spice it up. I'm going to just go natural and do some fruits, some plants, and some spices. And we're going to do that just to show you. But I'm going to come back in 5 hours and we will start the next process of just stringing it through. It's pretty simple, but I just like to show you guys from start to finish what we're looking at. Okay, so here it is. 5 hours later, nice and dry. What you're looking for is the cranberries themselves. You don't want anything to be squishy. The cranberries are going to kind of make a little tick sound when you drop them. Same with everything else. It's going to be hard, but also like, so you can still do this, but nothing is wet anymore. Now this is what it looks like with the cinnamon. Let me show you. I'm going to do a batch with just orange, no cinnamon. And it is a little bit prettier than what this looks like. Let me show you right now. Okay, so I am downstairs in my craft room. I've got the cinnamon-free oranges here, and the cinnamon-free apples, and of course the cinnamon-free cranberries. And just to show you what I mean, that's the difference. Both pretty, but this one smells really different and nice. So what you're going to need for this is all of the things you want on your garland. So of course I have some rosemary and some cinnamon sticks as well, but we don't have to use those. And you're going to need a needle with a nice big loop at the end. I am taking some twine. Now I'm using garden twine. Kitchen twine would be much better and smaller and easier to work with, but this is the only twine I had and I really like the rustic look of the twine, and that's why I'm using it. You're gonna make one knot. You don't wanna make too many knots because we do have to thread this through the fruit. So you don't wanna make like 3 or 4 massive knots, otherwise it's not gonna get through the fruit very easy. So I've made one knot and I have started. So what I've done is I have gone, you have two options. You can go through like this, where you've gone in through one entryway, come through the back and back out, or you can actually, especially if you have children, you could use the middle of the fruit and just go right through that, and that is a little bit safer. Now, when you are going through, if you're using things like cinnamon sticks or greenery, you are going to want to leave spaces as you go for tying them up on there afterwards at the end of it. It just makes it easier to do it on the end, in my opinion. And the one other thing to note, if you are using greenery, so I'm using some rosemary, but it was sitting on the kitchen counter for a few days and it dried out. So now you can see it's starting to crumble, and it makes things a little bit harder to work with when your greenery isn't fresh. So if you do plan on using greenery and it's just like, say, outside in your backyard or whatever, make sure that you keep it fresh because it's just so much easier to work with, and then it won't crumble as you're working with it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. So basically, once that you've strung this through, I've cut my garland to how big I want it. You now have to move that orange all the way down to the end. We are working backwards here, of course. So I've moved the orange to the end. I have decided to do a cranberry next. And this is perfect because you can just pierce right through it. I'm having a hard time showing you, I can't find my tripod. So I'm having a hard time showing you as I'm piercing it, but you get the gist. I've pierced through it. Now I'm going to pull it down the rope. Now I've pulled it down all the way to the end, and I'm going to put a piece of either rosemary or cinnamon stick here. I'm actually just going to do it right now. I'm going to show you, because you can do it afterwards, but then it's full of like your fruit and stuff. So I'll just show you now because it's a simple tie off. You're simply going to put this here and wrap this around and tie it off. And I'll show you what that looks like when I'm finished. And there it is. So I wrapped the twine around it once and then made a knot and pulled tight. And there we go. So I'm going to continue on here. You would do the same with your slice of pine or your sprig of pine or raspberry, whatever you wanted to do. I'm going to kind of finish it up. You keep stringing through the end and pulling all the fruit down and your items down, and I'll show you what mine looks like at the end. Okay, so I have everything I wanted strung on. Now, of course, I'm going to cut my needle off, and now I have 2 open ends. So I have a couple of options here. I can tie slip knots at the bottom, or I can just tie knot knots at the bottom, like big knots. You're going to want to rope those a couple times, and this way nothing falls off. So here's my garland. There's no rhyme or reason. It's a little dark here in this craft room, so I'm going to take it out to a windowsill, hang it, and show you the finished product because it is really quite beautiful. Okay, here is my garland. I'll put it on the wall so you guys can see, or maybe even the Christmas tree. So here it is on the tree, nice and pretty. When you have a light near it, it lights up the oranges really nicely. It's hard to tell on my tree because I don't have a bare tree. I have tinsel and just crap on it. I wonder if it would be better on the downstairs tree, but it doesn't really matter. There's tinsel over that one too. So yeah, there is your garland. Now you can definitely put your items together a lot closer together. You could string popcorn on there. You could do whatever you wanted. And then don't forget to save if you have anything left over in terms of like dehydrated fruits and stuff. You can save these for simmer pots to do other wreaths projects with, feed it to the birds. You can do a bunch of other stuff with this. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.